I remember the day our empire fell. Not the final day of the war, mind you, but the day we sealed our fate. The day we learned the true meaning of a human word, brutality. My name is Zex Khan, once a proud warrior of the Advanti Empire, now a broken veteran with tales no one wishes to hear. As I sit here, absently rubbing the stump where my left arm used to be, I can't help but reflect on the arrogance that led us to our downfall. But you should have seen us in our prime. The Advanti Empire, spanning 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, our sleek ships and advanced technology the envy of 100 lesser races. We were the undisputed masters of our corner of the cosmos, our very name spoken with reverence and fear. How foolish we were. It began, as these things often do, with a simple border dispute. The Myrish, a race of silicon-based lifeforms, had expanded into a system we considered ours. In our magnanimity, we had allowed them to colonize a few uninhabitable to us worlds over the centuries. But now they dared to claim a garden world, rich with resources we coveted. I remember standing in the grand hall of the Imperial Palace as Empress Vex Ara addressed the council. Her iridescent scales shimmered with righteous anger as she spoke. The Myrish have forgotten their place, she declared, her voice resonating through the chamber. It is time we reminded them of the natural order of the galaxy. There was no debate, no consideration of diplomacy. Why should there be? We were the Advanti. Our will was the will of the cosmos itself. The next day, our ultimatum was broadcast across the disputed system: surrender the garden world or face annihilation. We gave them a standard cycle to comply, far more generous than they deserved, we thought. That's when they arrived. The humans. I'll never forget the first time I saw one. A holographic projection, crude by our standards, appearing in the council chamber. A bipedal being, soft-skinned and fragile-looking, daring to address our Empress as an equal. "I am Ambassador Knox of the United Earth Government," it said, its alien features unreadable to us. "We strongly urge you to reconsider your actions against the Myrish people. They are under our protection." The council chamber erupted in laughter. Protection? From these primitive creatures? We had observed their species, of course. A curiosity, nothing more, barely out of their gravity well, with a handful of colonies to their name. Empress Vex Ara's dismissal was curt. "Your concerns are noted, human. This is a matter beyond your understanding. Do not interfere in the affairs of your betters." The human's response still haunts me. "You have been warned," it said simply, before the projection winked out. We should have heeded that warning. We should have noticed the steel in those alien eyes, the resolve in that soft voice. But in our arrogance, we saw only weakness. The following day, our fleets moved against the Myrish colony. Our weapons were primed, our warriors eager for a glorious victory that would remind the galaxy of our supremacy. We never fired a shot. The flash of the first explosion caught us completely by surprise. One moment, our flagship was there, resplendent in the light of the system's star. The next, it was gone, vaporized by a weapon we couldn't even comprehend. More flashes followed. Ships disintegrated, defense platforms crumbled. And all around us, appearing as if from nowhere, were the angular, utilitarian shapes of human warships. They had been waiting for us. Invisible, undetectable, they had surrounded our fleet. And now they unleashed hell. I was on a cruiser at the edge of the formation. I watched in horror as ship after ship of our mighty fleet was reduced to atoms. There was no glory here, no honorable combat, only swift, merciless destruction. As our ship frantically maneuvered to escape, I caught a transmission from the human fleet. A simple message, repeated in our language. "You were warned. Brutality begets brutality." We fled, the remnants of our once proud armada scattered to the solar winds. And as we limped home, nursing our wounds in our shattered pride, we knew that everything had changed. The humans had come, and they had taught us the true meaning of brutality. Little did we know, our lesson was only beginning. The days following our defeat at the Myrish colony were a blur of panic and disbelief. Our mighty empire, which had stood unchallenged for millennia, had been brought to its knees in a single, devastating engagement. But we were Advanti, surely this was but a momentary setback. How wrong we were. I was reassigned to the defense of Kalax, one of our core worlds. A fortress planet, bristling with weaponry and shielded by technology we believed impenetrable. Let the humans come, our commanders boasted. Here, we will break them. The humans obliged us. They came not in the hundreds, not in the thousands, but in the tens of thousands. The sky turned black with their ships, a vast armada that dwarfed anything we had ever seen. We expected them to lay siege, to probe our defenses, to give us time to reveal our strength. Instead, they simply opened fire. The first salvo bypassed our shields, as if they weren't even there. Entire continents burned. Our mighty cannons, the pride of the Advanti military, were silenced before they could fire a single shot. In orbit, our fleet fared no better. Human ships moved in ways that defied our understanding of physics, appearing and disappearing at will, striking from impossible angles. They wielded weapons that tore holes in the very fabric of space-time. I remember standing in the command center, watching helplessly as our forces were systematically dismantled. An elder commander, his scales pale with shock, whispered beside me, by the Empress, "What are these creatures?" That's when we learned of the ground invasion. Somehow, in the chaos of the orbital battle, the humans had landed troops. We rushed to meet them, confident that in close combat, our natural Advanti strength and ferocity would prevail. We were unprepared for what we faced. The humans came encased in mechanical suits that amplified their strength tenfold. They moved with a coordination that seemed almost hive mind-like, yet each soldier demonstrated terrifying individual initiative. I led a countercharge against one of their advancing columns. It was like throwing ourselves against a tide of living metal. Their weapons cut through our best armor as if it were paper. Those of us lucky enough to close to melee range found our claws and blades scrabbling uselessly against their armored hides. And all the while they kept coming. Tireless, relentless, unopposed by pain or fear or mercy. I saw a human soldier take a direct hit from one of our plasma cannons. Its suit was half melted, but it kept fighting, tearing through our lines with its bare hands until its allies could reach it. We fell back in disarray, retreating to pre-prepared bunkers deep beneath the planet's surface. Surely here, we thought, we would be safe. Surely here we could regroup, mount a counteroffensive. The humans just burrowed after us. They came in great mechanical worms that ate through bedrock as if it were sand. They flooded our tunnels with gases that turned our own atmosphere into fire. They sent swarms of microscopic machines that devoured our weapons and armor. I lost count of the battles I fought, the friends I saw fall. Hours blurred into days as we were driven ever deeper, ever further back, and still the humans kept coming. Finally, broken and exhausted, we found ourselves in the planet's deepest vault, the last sanctuary. As the sounds of human weapons grew ever closer, our commanding officer made a fateful decision. "Surrender," he croaked, his once proud voice now hoarse with despair. "We must surrender. It's the only way any of us will survive this nightmare." As I watched the white flag being raised on our communications array, I felt something inside me break. Not just my pride as an Advanti warrior, but my entire understanding of the universe. We had thought ourselves the apex predators of the galaxy. We had dismissed the humans as primitive, weak, unworthy of our concern. Now we knew the truth. We had roused a slumbering giant, and in doing so, sealed our doom. The human forces accepted our surrender with cold efficiency. As they processed us as prisoners, I heard two of them talking. I'll never forget what one said to the other. "Command says to prep for the next target. No rest for the wicked." No rest. No pause in their relentless advance. I realized then that Kalax was just the beginning. The storm hadn't broken, it had only just begun to rage. And we, the mighty Advanti, could do nothing but weather it and pray for survival. The fall of Kalax was just the beginning. In the cycles that followed, we watched helplessly as our mighty empire crumbled world by world, system by system. The humans were everywhere, an unstoppable tide of destruction that swept away everything in its path. I was transferred between a dozen different commands, each time retreating further into what we once thought of as impregnable territory. Each time the humans followed, their advance never slowing, never faltering. Our leaders tried everything. We attempted to negotiate, sending envoys with offers of reparations, of trade deals, of technology exchanges. The human response was always the same: unconditional surrender, total demilitarization, nothing less. We tried new tactics, new technologies. We threw everything we had at them: antimatter bombs, dimensional rifts, even forbidden bioweapons. Nothing worked. Every innovation, every secret weapon, every desperate gambit was met and countered, as if the humans had been expecting it all along. It was during the battle for Ixalan Prime that I finally understood the true horror of what we faced. Ixalan was our most heavily fortified world outside of the homeworld itself. We had spent centuries building its defenses. Surely here we would make our stand. I commanded a division of our elite shock troops, the finest warriors the Advanti had ever produced. We were dug in, waiting for the human ground assault that we knew would come. When it did, it was like nothing we had ever seen. The sky turned red as the humans deployed some kind of atmospheric-altering technology. Our communications went dark, and then they came not in dropships or landing craft, but falling from the sky like meteors. They hit the ground in explosive impacts, each one at the heart of our defensive positions. As the dust cleared, we saw not the armored soldiers we had come to expect, but massive war machines, bipedal titans of metal and fury, each one a walking army unto itself. We fought. By the Empress, how we fought. My troops charged those metal monsters with everything we had. I saw heroes born and die in moments, acts of valor that would have filled epic poems in ages past. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. I remember the moment I lost my arm. I had managed to scale one of the human war machines, searching desperately for a weak point. I found a seam in its armor and plunged my shock blade in with all my strength. For a moment, I felt triumph. Then the machine's arm swung around, faster than anything that size should be able to move. There was a flash of searing pain, the stench of burned flesh, and suddenly I was falling, my left arm left behind, still clutching my useless weapon. As I lay there in the mud, my world narrowing to a haze of pain and the thunder of battle, a human soldier approached, not one of the war machines, but a regular trooper. I waited for the killing blow. It never came. Instead, the human applied some kind of medical tech to my wound, stemming the blood loss. As it worked, it spoke. I'll never forget its words. "You fought well, but it's over. Stop fighting, and you might live to see tomorrow." There was no mockery in its voice, no cruelty, just pity, as if we were children who had finally learned a harsh but necessary lesson. That was the moment I knew, deep in my core, that we had lost. Not just the battle, not just the war, but everything. Our pride, our identity, our place in the galaxy. All of it gone. The battle for Ixalan Prime ended not with a glorious last stand, but with a whimper. Our remaining forces, seeing the futility of further resistance, laid down their arms. The mightiest fortress in the Advanti Empire had fallen in less than a planetary rotation. As we were processed for prisoner transport, I heard human soldiers talking. They were already preparing for the next campaign, the push towards our homeworld. Their endurance seemed as infinite as their technological superiority. One phrase stuck with me, a human idiom I didn't fully understand but felt in my very bones: no rest for the wicked. We had thought ourselves mighty. We had thought ourselves invincible. But in our arrogance we had awakened something beyond our comprehension. We had unleashed a force of nature, an implacable foe that would not stop until we were utterly defeated. The humans had come, and in their wake they left only devastation and a bitter lesson about the true meaning of brutality. The final days of the war are etched into my memory like acid on metal. Our once vast empire had been reduced to a handful of core systems. Our mighty fleets were nothing more than scattered remnants, desperately trying to slow the inexorable human advance. I found myself on Advantos Prime, our homeworld, for what we all knew would be our last stand. The planet was a fortress, every inch of it prepared for war. But after everything I had seen, I knew it wouldn't be enough. The human fleet arrived with mathematical precision, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. There were thousands of ships, more than I could count. Our remaining defenses opened fire immediately, filling space with a dazzling display of energy weapons and missiles. It didn't even slow them down. The space battle, if you could call it that, lasted less than an hour. Our orbital platforms, our minefields, our defense grid, all of it swept aside like so much cosmic debris. And then, the landings began. Unlike on other worlds, the humans didn't immediately attack. Instead, they established a perimeter and broadcast a message planet-wide. It was the voice of the same ambassador we had dismissed so arrogantly at the start of this nightmare. People of the Advanti Empire, Ambassador Ultoid said, his tone neutral but firm. Your military has been defeated. Your empire has fallen. We offer you one final chance to surrender. Commit to full demilitarization, with the exception of basic planetary defense forces, and we will cease hostilities immediately. Refuse. And we will have no choice but to continue our campaign to its bitter conclusion. You have one planetary rotation to decide. I was in the Imperial Palace when the message came through. I watched as our leaders, once so proud and certain, argued and pleaded and blamed each other for our downfall. In the end, it was our Empress herself who made the decision. Enough, Vex Ara said, her voice heavy with defeat. Enough death. Enough destruction. We surrender. The terms of our surrender were harsh, but not as brutal as we had feared. We would be allowed to maintain our government, our culture, our way of life, but our military would be dismantled. We would be allowed defensive capabilities only, closely monitored by human observers. As I watched the human troops enter our capital city, I expected to feel anger, hatred. Instead, I felt something far worse: respect. These beings, whom we had dismissed as primitive, had utterly outmatched us in every conceivable way. In the cycles that followed, our society underwent a transformation more profound than anything in our history. The arrogance that had defined us for so long was replaced by a kind of cultural soul-searching. We had to redefine what it meant to be Advanti in a galaxy where we were no longer the apex predators. The humans, for their part, were not what we expected. Once the war was over, they proved to be fair, even generous. They helped us rebuild, shared medical technology that saved countless lives, including giving me a new arm far more advanced than the one I had lost. But they never let us forget the lesson we had learned. Brutality begets brutality, they would say, but peace must be chosen. Now, cycles later, I sit here, an old veteran of a war that reshaped the galaxy. The younger generations of Advanti look at humans with a mix of fear, respect, and fascination. Many have even adopted human customs, human philosophies. We've learned much from them. We've learned of concepts like proportional response, of the strength found in diversity, of the power of cooperation over domination. We've taken our place in a galactic community far richer and more complex than we had ever imagined. But we've never forgotten the word they taught us, the word that defined our downfall: brutality. We learned its true meaning, its terrible cost. And in learning it, we found a path to something better. The humans defeated us, yes. They brought our empire to its knees and forced us to confront the consequences of our actions. But in doing so, they also gave us a chance at redemption, at becoming something more than what we were. As I look at the stars now, I no longer see conquest waiting to happen. I see possibilities, civilizations to learn from, alliances to be forged. And I see the humans not as the brutal conquerors we once feared, but as the harsh teachers we needed. They taught us brutality, yes, but in the end, they also taught us peace. And that, perhaps, is the greatest lesson of all. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.